up, students? This is your teacher for today, Teacher Cleo, and welcome back again to my YouTube channel. For this week's video, we will learn about these terminologies, and I have good news to you. In just one day, we will learn 5 terminologies. Isn't it amazing? Yes, it is. So are you ready? Yes, you are ready. So, if you want to learn more about those terminologies, just keep on watching. So when we say alternative assessment is a form of student performance grading that allows for a more holistic approach to students' assessment. So these are the examples of alternative assessment. First, the open book exams, take-home exams, student portfolios, and the performance test. Next is assessment. When we say assessment, it refers to the wide variety of methods or tools that educators use to evaluate, measure, and document the academic readiness, learning progress, skill acquisition, or educational needs of students. So these are the examples of assessment: the formative assessments and the summative assessments. In addition, there are 3 types of assessment: the assessment for learning, assessment as learning, and assessment of learning. Next is assessment for learning. When we say about assessment for learning, it is an approach to teaching and learning that creates feedback which is then used to improve students' performance. And these are the examples of assessment for learning: the exams, portfolios, final projects, and the standardized tests. Next, assessment steps. So there are 4 assessment steps. First, it clearly defines and plan learning outcomes. Next, it assess the learning outcomes. Next is analyze the results of the outcomes of assessments. And lastly, adjust or improve following the results of the assessments plan. For our last terminology of the day, the authentic assessment. So authentic assessment is the measurement of intellectual accomplishments that are worthwhile, significant, and meaningful, as contrasted with multiple choice tests. Authentic assessments can be devised by the teacher or in collaboration with the student by engaging their voices. So these are the examples of authentic assessment. First, drawing and writing about a story or a chapter. Second, experiments. It is a trial and error learning. Third, journal entries about the reflective writing. Fourth, discussion partners or groups. And lastly, student self-assessment. So see you again tomorrow, everyone. This is our day 2 of learning about the terminologies. So for today, we will discuss about the checklist, Criterion reference assessment, event task, formal assessments, and formative assessments. So what is checklist? Checklists are assessment tools that set out specific criteria which educators and students may use to gauge skill development or progress. Checklists set out skills, attitudes, strategies, and behaviors for evaluation and offer ways to systematically organize information about a student or group of students. Next one, Criterion reference assessment. So what is Criterion reference assessment? A Criterion reference test is a style of which uses test scores to generate a statement about the behavior that can be expected of a person with that score. Most tests and quizzes that are written by school teachers can be considered Criterion reference tests. Another one, event task. An event task is any learning activity or assessment that asks students to perform or to demonstrate their knowledge, understanding, and proficiency. Event tasks yield a tangible product or event that serve as evidence of learning. Example, the presentation, the performances, exhibits and fairs, and also the debates. Another one, formal assessments. Formal assessments have data which support conclusions made from the test. Example, checklist, observation, portfolio, and the rating scale. So for our last terminology of the day, the formative assessment. Formative assessment is a range of formal and informal assessment procedures conducted by teachers during the learning process in order to modify teaching and learning activities to improve student attainment. The examples of formative assessment include asking students to draw a concept map in a class to represent their understanding of a topic. Next, submit 1 or 2 sentences identifying the main point of a lecture. And lastly, turn in a research proposal for early feedback. And that would be all for today. See you again tomorrow. Welcome back everyone to our third day learning terminologies. For today, we will discuss about grades, informal assessments, journals, norm reference assessments, and observation. First, we will discuss about the grade. A grading system in education is a system that is used to assess the educational performance of a child, which is entirely based upon points alone. Grading in education is the attempt to apply standardized measurements of varying levels of their achievement in a course. Grades can be assigned as letters. For example, A, B, C, D, E, and F as range. Next is, they can be also numbers. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. As a percentage or as a number out of a possible total, they could be 70, 71, 80, 85, 90, 95, or either 100. Next, informal assessments. Informal assessments are those spontaneous forms of assessments that can easily be incorporated in the day-to-day classroom activities, and that measures the students' performance and progress. Informal assessments are content and performance-driven. Self-questionnaires or checklists, project, writing examples, tests and quizzes made by the teacher, portfolios, grading assignments, student-created quizzes, and portfolios are the examples of informal assessment. The third one, journals. Journals are personal records of students' learning experiences. Students typically are asked by their instructors or teachers to record learning-related incidents, sometimes during the learning process, but more often, just after they occur. Example, travel journal, school journal, project journal, diet journal, therapy journal, dream journal, gratitude journal, and family journal. Next is norm reference assessment. It is a type of standardized test that compares students' performance to one another. This method is used to understand how students score, compare to predefined population with similar experiences. Example, this includes the IQ test and the tests that are graded on a curve. For our last terminology of the day, observation. Observation is a frequently used term in education programs. Classroom observation describes the practice of sitting in on another teacher's class to observe, learn, and reflect. Various aspects of the class can be examined, such as routines, use of time, schedule, participation, teaching strategies, management strategies, learner interest, and many more. Welcome to our 4th day learning some terminology. So for today, we will discuss about peer assessment, performance assessment, portfolio, rating scale, and scoring rubric. First, we will discuss about the peer assessment. Peer assessment involves students taking responsibility for assessing the work of their peers against the set assessment criteria. They can therefore be engaged in providing feedback to their peers, where sometimes referred to as peer review, and also summative grades, where moderated by the teacher or by their colleagues, and also a combination of these two. Next, let us discuss about performance assessment. It is also known as alternative or authentic assessment. It is a form of testing that requires students to perform a task rather than select an answer from a ready-made text. Example: it includes composing a few sentences in an open-ended short response, developing a thorough analysis in an essay, conducting a laboratory investigation, curating a portfolio of student work, and completing an original research paper. The third one that I am going to discuss is about the student portfolio. A student portfolio is a compilation of academic work and other forms of educational evidence assembled for the purpose of, first, evaluating coursework quality, learning progress, and academic achievement. Second, determining whether students have met learning standards or other academic requirements for courses and grade level. So there are 3 types of student portfolio or portfolio. First, the showcase portfolio. It contains products that demonstrate how capable the owner is at any given moment. Next, the second one, an assessment portfolio. It contains products that can be used to assess the owner's competences. The third one is a development portfolio. It shows how the owner has been developed and therefore demonstrates their growth. Next, we will discuss about the rating scale. A rating scale allows teachers to indicate the degree or frequency of the behaviors, skills, and strategies displayed by the learner. Rating scales also give students information for setting goals and improving performance. In a rating scale, the descriptive word is more important than the related number. There are 4 primary types of rating scales. The first one is the graphic rating scale. Second, numerical rating scale. Third, descriptive rating scale. And lastly, the comparative rating scale. So, for our last terminology of the day, we will discuss about the scoring rubric. Scoring rubric means a scoring guide used to evaluate the quality of students' constructed responses. A rubric is a scoring guide used to evaluate performance, a product, or a project. It has 3 parts. First is for performance criteria, second, the rating scale, and third is for indicators. For you and for your students, the rubric defines what is expected and what will be assessed. So, what do you think is the best way or the effective way for the scoring a rubric? or for scoring rubric. So, the criteria. Criteria is a good rubric that must have a list of specific criteria to be rated. Effective rubrics use a lot of descriptive languages. The more specifically used, the easier for the raters to assign a score, and it is easier also for the students to verify and understand about their scores. Today is the last day that we will discuss some terminologies. I know that you are excited, and I am so glad that you are still watching, listening up to this moment. So what are you waiting for? We will discuss right now about the self-assessment, skills test, student log, summative assessment, and lastly, the traditional assessment. First, we'll discuss about the self-assessment. So, self-assessment is defined as the involvement of learners in making judgments about their achievements and the outcome of their learning. And it is also a valuable approach to supporting student learning, particularly when used formatively. So, you can introduce students to the idea of self-assessment using ongoing constructed formative learning. For example, by using online quizzes that give students immediate feedback on their performance, and or summative assessment. For example, requiring students to grade their own performances. Next, we will discuss about the skills test. What do you think is the skills test? So, it is an assessment used to provide an unbiased, validated evaluation of a candidate's ability to perform. Typically, a skills test asks a variety of questions in different formats to see how candidates perform on their duties. The third one that we will discuss is about the student log. So the student log was developed in order to improve the structure of clinical education. In this log, students systematically registered essential learning activities. When should we use those logs? So learning logs are used for students' reflection on the material they are learning. This type of journal is in common use among scientists and engineers. In this log, students record the process they go through in learning something new, and in any questions they may need to have been clarified. Next, summative assessment. Summative assessment is the assessment of participants where the focus is on the outcome of a program. This contrasts with formative assessment, which summarizes the participants' development at a particular time. So, summative assessment examples are end of term or midterm exams, cumulative work or an extended period such as a final project or creative portfolio, end of unit or chapter test, and lastly, standardized tests that demonstrate school accountability are used for pupil admissions. Lastly, we will discuss about the traditional assessment. So these are the tests taken with paper and pencil that are usually true or false, matching type, or multiple choice. These assessments are easy to grade, but only test isolated application, facts, or memorized data at lower level thinking skills. Standardized tests, most state achievement tests, and high school graduation examination are also examples of traditional assessment. So tests given to the students by the teachers to measure how much the students have learned. It is the most common way because it provides valuable information about students' learning. So that's it, class. I hope that you have learned a lot about those terminologies, put not only in your mind but also in your heart. This has been Cleo Hazel M. Wati, your physical education instructor, teaching you the educational terminologies. Until next time, bye!